What up, lads? It's your boy, Watch Mojo here. Welcome to the list. I'm Mr. List. The Weiss Schwarz situation is insane. And by that I mean these goofy cards. Trading card games can have hundreds upon thousands of different unique cards, especially the more popular ones like Yokai Watch and Beyblade. Now, more often than not, these cards are definitely unique, but they have similar effects between different archetypes and sets. And many trading card game players like to categorize these cards into different subgenres. For example, Yu-Gi-Oh! We got floaters, we got floodgates, and Weiss Schwarz, we have brainstormers, and those plus 500 to the front assist cards that's in every single set. But sometimes the powers that be up in Konami and Bushiroad will create cards that are just so goofy, everybody died. But don't worry guys, I am a certified goofster, chat. You don't have to worry about my safety. For people like us, an extremely goofy movie is just a movie. I want to be clear on what I mean when I say a goofy card. I'm not talking about the artwork. I know Weiss Schwarz has a lot of goofy artwork in their cards. I'm only talking about the card effects. But what is a certified goofy card? I guess the best way I can describe a goofy card effect is when you read it for the first time, you kind of like do a double take, like, wait, what, really? That's what it does? These are just card effects that are super unique. I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is definitely the king when it comes to these goofy card effects. One of my favorite goofy cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is Convulsion of Nature. As long as this card remains face up on the field, both players must turn their respective decks upside down and proceed with the duel as if everything is fine. And as goofy as it is, some players actually found a use with this with the archetype known as spirals. I don't think the deck was ever meta, and just to be clear, I don't think goofy ass card effects need to necessarily be good effects or meta effects. I just think they have to be super unique and funny. But Weiss Schwarz has its fair share of goofy card effects, so we're gonna be counting down the top 5 right now. We're gonna be starting off with one of my favorite anime franchises of all time, Star Wars. It's a 2-1 counter card, which states, choose one of your characters and that character gets the following ability for the turn. Auto. When this is placed from the stage to the waiting room, you may put this rested in the slot this was in. But more importantly, choose one of your opponent's characters in battle. That character does not stand during your opponent's next stand phase. Compared to all the other cards on this list, this definitely isn't the most wacky of the bunch. That's why it's number 5, you see. But I just think the flavor of this card, man, is just delicious. I actually think Weiss Schwarz does a great job of incorporating the flavor of different IPs into its card effects. I think that's one of the biggest strengths that Weiss Schwarz has. And this card is just a perfect example of it. I think it's just so goofy that if your opponent attacks you, you can be like, psych! Now your waifu is frozen in carbonite. Would it be better just to bounce that card, or better yet, send it to the graveyard? Probably, but the flavor of freezing your opponent's card in carbonite, just like what happened to Han Solo, is just amazing. I love it. I think it's super goofy. While I don't think it's likely, I'm still pretty optimistic that one day we'll see the Star Wars set printed in English, and you bet I'll be running 4 copies of Carbonite Freezing. Number 4, Miyuki-san, Completionist General. I actually have this card in my collection, and actually figuring out what this card did is the reason why I decided to make this video in the first place. It's one of my favorite sets of all time, Lucky Star. In fact, it was the first set I ever got my hands on. This card has character encore, but more importantly, has the effect that when it's placed from hand to the stage, this card gains 50 soul for the turn. That's right, this card gets 50 soul when it's summoned to the field. You can attack your opponent and deal them 50 damage to the face. Now, obviously, this card isn't busted or anything. I just think it's super goofy that a card can even have that much soul power to begin with. To my knowledge, I don't know of any single card that can get that much soul power on its own. Now, obviously, if you attack your opponent with 51 soul, it's pretty likely that your damage is gonna get canceled at some point. But if the planets align on the full moon on Friday the 13th,
Among Us,
and all of your opponent's CX cards are in their hand, clock, or stock, theoretically, this card could one turn kill your opponent from level 1 to level 4 in an instant. I'm curious if that would work that way. Like if you attacked your opponent and they had no CX cards in their deck, will they just keep taking damage forever and ever until they reach level 4? I have no idea if this card actually can OTK. But just the fact that this is a discussion at all is just insane. This is why I love this card, Miyuki-san. Number 3, rock, paper, scissors. No game, no life.
We call it quartz parchment shears.
This is a level 1 zero cost spell card with the replay effect. Play a game. Declare that you will play paper and play rock, paper, scissors with your opponent one time. If you win with paper, draw up to 4 cards. If you tie with paper or win with rock or scissors, draw up to 2 cards. If you lose or tie with rock or scissors, put this card into your clock. And it's very important, this specifically states that you may play other hand signs than paper, despite declaring that you're gonna play paper in the first place. So this card essentially allows you to lie through your teeth to the face of your opponent. Now, I have never seen No Game No Life. I'm unfamiliar with that cartoon, but even without knowing much about No Game No Life, I can tell that a lot of passion went into this card effect, and I'm guessing something like this happens in the cartoon. And it's such a unique card effect. I can appreciate how goofy it is to play rock, paper, scissors, but also kind of play like a Dead by Daylight mind game with your opponent. Like, hey, I'm gonna throw paper, watch out, chat. This is like the Sailor Moon card game, but good. Like, again, I have no idea if this card is meta or good, but drawing extra cards, it can only be good, right? At least in Yu-Gi-Oh, drawing 4 cards would be insanely busted. So you better be good at rock, paper, scissors if you're gonna run this card at 4, chat. Number 2, Yayoi, High Five, Idolmaster. This card is a level 2 1 cost that says, when this is placed from hand to the stage, if your opponent also has a Yayoi High Five and everyone agrees, perform a High Five. If so, everyone draws 1 card. That is super goofy. This card reminds me so much of the Yu-Gi-Oh card, Yujo Friendship, which if you don't know, that card makes it so you can offer your opponent a handshake, and if they agree, your life points get equalized. But unlike Yujo Friendship, this card seems like 10 times more impossible to actually get off. Imagine trying to get this card effect off at an event without being in prior cahoots with someone else at the tournament. You have to run Idolmaster with this card, and you have to hope that someone else at the tournament is a Giga Chad like you running Idolmaster with this card. Then both you and said Giga Chad have to draw and summon this card at level 2 and agree to the High Five. Which, by the way, if this somehow happens at a tournament and you don't agree to the High Five, you're just an asshole. The card effect actually also states in parentheses to please pay attention to the noise level when this happens. If this ever happens at the tournament, you know the table is gonna be super hype and everyone's gonna be cheering and laughing if this happens. The noise level, dog. It's just insanely wild because even Yujo Friendship has a card called Unity that can help force your opponent to accept the handshake. But at least to my knowledge, in Weiss Schwarz, there's no way to kind of give your opponent the Yayoi High Five, you know, kind of force them to control it and then kind of force them into doing the High Five thing with you. This is something that just has to happen by chance. But that's what makes this card a certified goofy card effect. Moving on to number 1, Steamboat Willie, Disney 100. And all the collectors were foaming at the mouth for this legendary Steamboat Willie card. But with Steamboat Willie commanding such an insane price, that begs the question for me, what does this card even do? Well, it does a bunch of stuff, but this is the one main thing that I think really makes it such a goofy card. It's a level 0 cost 0 with a continuous effect, Memory Experience. If this is in your level zone and you have a copy of this in your memory, this card gets plus 100 level. What makes this card so insane for me is that a card can even get to level 100. Like, that is just insane. But then I read the fine print more deeply, and it turns out that despite the wording of this card, or at least the translation, only the card in the level indicator actually gets to plus 100, and the one on the field does not. But it begs the question, why would you want a level 100 card in the level indicator in the first place? Well, that's because it's supposed to be in cahoots with a different Mickey Mouse card in the Disney 100 set. It's a red level 3 cost 2 character card and has a bunch of effects, but the main effect that coincides with Steamboat Willie is Auto CX Combo Experience 100. When this attacks, if you have the door CX in your climax area and the sum of the level cards in your level zone is 100 or more, choose one of the following 2 effects to resolve. Your opponent chooses 2 CX cards in their waiting room and shuffles all other cards from their waiting room into their deck. Pay 1 stock, discard 1 card. You may pay cost. If you do, deal 2 damage to your opponent, and this card for the turn gets 4,000 more power. Honestly, for how much trouble this is to get off, those effects don't really seem that insane to me. I don't know about y'all, but still, I think pumping any card up to level 100 of all things, when the max level is 3, is just insane and more than worthy of the Goofy card seal of approval. I guess that's gonna do it for my video. That is my top 5. Feel free to leave your favorite Goofy cards in the comments section, but oh, you thought I wasn't gonna talk about this? You thought I wasn't gonna talk about this? Now this card needs a bit of background. Weiss Schwarz has its own mascot character called Card Game Shoko. Now this cartoon character is not from any pre-existing IP. It's kind of its own thing that Bushiroad created to kind of represent Weiss Schwarz and promote Weiss Schwarz. In fact, if you look in a lot of Weiss Schwarz product, on the back, you'll see good old Card Game Shoko right there. And Bushiroad, to commemorate its mascot Card Game Shoko, made its own collector's box with its own little trial deck filled with special Card Game Shoko cards. It even came with its own comic book, where Card Game Shoko presumably plays lots of card games. Now something really special about her trial deck, if you look closely at every single card, you'll notice that these cards are actually both from the Weiss side and the Schwarz side. But there's actually one card in this set that is so goofy, it's actually not allowed to be used in a duel. In fact, it even has that spooky card text where it says, "This card cannot be used in an official sanctioned tournament." So this card is just insanely goofy. Let's see what it actually does. It's called Interesting Titles Participating, and it's a 2-soul CX card that states, Auto, when this is placed from hand to the CX zone, remove all cards in your deck and the waiting room from the game. Very important. You don't put them in the memory, you just yeet them out of the game. Then, pull out a brand new deck with different sleeves and continue the game. For the rest of the game, whenever a card from the old deck would be placed in the waiting room, instead, yeet it from the game. And the flavor text says, hey, you should Weiss Schwarz too. I have never seen this level of certified goofiness in a card game at all. Now I debated whether or not to include this card because it's technically not allowed to be used in any actual duels, but if we are counting this card, then this is 100% the most certified goofy card in all of Weiss Schwarz. Alright guys, that's actually gonna do it for this video. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite goofy cards are in Weiss Schwarz. Let me know what cards I missed. I'm guessing I missed quite a few.
Ain't it funny, you with them, you say you love me, thoughts stay here in my mind, then you just act like it's all fine, mixed signs, sick of trying, but it's all good.